Part 87. The Aftermath. The prophet surveyed the dead as he walked around the field. When he saw Hamza, he sobbed as he gazed upon his mutilated body. Hind, Abu Sufyan's wife, brutally cut off his nose and removed his fingers, and made a necklace out of them, and there are even reports that she opened up his stomach and took a bite out of his liver as a disgusting show of contempt. The prophet grew so enraged that he proclaimed, "If I catch them, I will show them vengeance." He also said, "I am going to do this to 30 of them because of what they did to Hamza." Allah then revealed,
"If you retaliate, then let it be equivalent to what you have suffered. But if you patiently endure, it is certainly best for those who are patient." Surah 16, verse 126.
The prophet then announced that mutilation was forbidden in Islam in all circumstances. The Muslims began burying the dead, and the prophet ordered that those who memorized the most Quran be buried first. Indeed, the Quran honors its carriers in this life and the next. Allah states,
"It will debase some and elevate others." Surah 55, verse 3.
The prophet then gave an encouraging reminder to the believers, wherein he said, "I will testify for every one of them on the day of judgment." The prophet then made dua for the martyrs, which has led to some misinterpretations that he prayed the funeral prayer, janazah. This is a misunderstanding. As previously stated, there is no funeral prayer for the martyr. He praised Allah, reminded the believers that everything happens by the will of Allah, asked for security on the day of judgment, and asked Allah to allow everyone among them to die in the state of Iman. At least 70 Muslims died, most of whom were from the Ansar. 22 of the Quraysh were killed, and there were no prisoners of war except for one man by the name of Abu Azza al-Jumahi. He was executed on the battlefield due to the treacherous nature of his presence. Abu Azza was captured at Badr, and his ransom was 4,000 dirhams. He begged the prophet to release him, citing that he had no sons and no means of paying the ransom. The prophet was soft-hearted and released him for free on the condition that he never fights the Muslims again. He agreed, but when preparations for Uhud began, Abu Sufyan persuaded him to join, offering him riches in victory or defeat. If they won, he was offered substantial war booty, and if they lost and he died, Abu Sufyan offered to sponsor his daughters and treat them as his own. Abu Azza, unable to resist the offer, betrayed his promise. Allah in turn humiliated him by making him the only person amongst 3,000 combatants to be captured and executed. The prophet then personally visited the families of the dead, especially those who did not have extended family and needed the most consolation. He visited Hamna bint Jash, the wife of Musab ibn Umayr. The prophet said, "Condolences." She replied,
"Who died?"
The prophet replied, "Your brother." She then said, "To Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. May Allah accept his martyrdom and forgive him." And she continued making dua for him. The prophet then said, "Condolences." And she again replied,
"Who?"
The prophet replied, "Musab." And she let out the loudest scream, for she could not handle the loss. The prophet later said, "Truly the husband has a station in the eyes of the wife that no one else has." There was also a female companion whose entire family had been martyred, but she also heard that the prophet died. She grew agitated as she waited for the Muslims to return. When they informed her that her father died, she replied,
"And how is the messenger of Allah?"
When they informed her that her brother died, she replied,
"And how is the messenger of Allah?"
When they informed her that her husband died, she replied,
"And how is the messenger of Allah?"
Finally, when she saw the prophet alive, she said in relief, "May my father and mother be sacrificed for you, O messenger of Allah. Any calamity after you is bearable."